September 10th, 2001, 12:10 p.m. EDT, Brooklyn, New York, pages 71 to 77. What are you talking about? I swiped my card, Sergio said. He twisted his body and tried to yank himself out of the officer's grip, which loosened but didn't let go. There was rage lingering on the surface that rippled like a wave, awakened into motion. I watched you jump the turnstile, son. Son? I'm not your son. Let go of me. The man let go, as if daring Sergio to run. But Sergio knew better than to run. You didn't run. You had to give a cop your name. You had to cooperate. You had to give in, give up. Answer to those who served and protected a world that had never served nor protected him. They were allowed to stop you for no reason. They could throw you up against the wall and pat you down, say whatever they wanted. And if you resisted, if you said one single thing, moved the wrong way, answered back, they could haul you in, and that would be the end of that. That was the law. Stop anyone, like every black kid walking or running, forget it, down the street, in his own neighborhood, down in the subway. The police were allowed to do whatever they wanted: tease, taunt, humiliate, shove, prod, provoke. Sergio's cousin Ralph had spouted tears that time when the cops grabbed him and ran their hands all over his legs, around his chest, up and down his arms, holding his head down so he couldn't look up, so he couldn't turn and see if anything but the dark smoldering of his own hoodie. Heavy, angry hands all over his body, loud, angry voices robbing him of his being, of being a human being. Are you going to wet your pants, little boy? One of the cops said. Want me to call your Grammy for you? Ralph was huge, dark-skinned with short dreads. He looked 16, but he was only 11, and he cried like a baby. No, Sergio was not going to cry. He was not going to bend, not going to break. Where are you going so badly you need to steal a ride? What's it to you? Sergio answered. I dare you. I just dare you. Look, I'm not a police officer. I'm not going to give you a ticket. Sergio lifted his eyes from the concrete platform. What the? Engine 209, ladder company 10. Sorry, kid, I was just... He should have noticed the man wasn't wearing a vest. The guy was just jacked, broad-chested, with strong, brown-skinned arms. He wasn't a cop. He couldn't do anything. He was just a fireman. I just wondered why you weren't in school. I have a nephew your age. It's Monday. The fireman laughed. But a good day to play hooky, I suppose. Hey, look, that's what I'm doing. Sergio leaned in and looked for the next train. The tunnel was dark. I'm not skipping. My school has the day off. Sergio straightened himself up and answered where there was no question. They stood in silence for a long while. Well, technically, I'm not either. The fireman seemed to feel the need to explain. I swapped days with a guy in my company, and you wouldn't believe why. The roar of the distant train whooshed into the station. A tiny light grew closer. Sergio had absolutely no interest in this guy or why he had the day off, but the unsettling sense of his authority lingered, as well as a kind of yearning for it at the same time. Okay, I'll play. Why? The fireman smiled. It's this guy's anniversary tomorrow, and he wants to surprise his wife. Take the day off, So he's working my shift now, and I'll work his tomorrow. No big deal. But that's a nice story, right? Want to tell me yours? No. Sergio shook his head, and when the train stopped and the doors opened, he got in. The fireman, too. The doors hissed closed, and the train lurched forward. The car was mostly empty. Across from him sat an old lady with a grocery cart folded and leaned against her legs. If Sergio didn't know better, it might have been Mrs. Peterson from his building. But this lady was Chinese. There was a white man in a business suit and tie playing with some little device in his hands. One of those Palm Pilot things, tapping the screen with a skinny pen. The subway hummed along, rocking rhythmically like the washers in the basement did. Hummed so that the girls in his apartment building sometimes put their babies up on top of the machines and let the vibrations lull them into sleep. The lights flickered for a second. The train started to slow, and then it sped up again, then slowed again, and black steel girders covered with years of oil and dirt, became dimly visible outside the windows. Sergio looked up and over at the fireman, who was sitting on the opposite side of the train, a bunch of seats further down. The train jerked once more, and then stopped altogether. The lights went out, and the low emergency bulbs lit up. Everyone turned and looked out the windows at the blackness, and waited. This was New York. It happened all the time. It could be 30 seconds. It could be 30 minutes. After about 5 minutes, the grocery lady tipped her head back and started snoring. The businessman must have checked his watch at least a dozen times in the last minute, and then finally he let out a loud groan, but it didn't bring the train back to life. Sergio stretched out his legs. What difference did it make? He didn't have anywhere to go, though he wasn't thrilled about all this empty time to think. He didn't like thinking too hard, except about math. Math had no feelings. It never let you down. Math made sense. People did not. Sergio deliberately made sure not to look toward where the fireman was sitting or make eye contact with him. No use inviting any more unwanted friendly conversation. Another few minutes went by, snoring and time checking time and snoring. But the train itself remained silent. I can't believe this. I just can't believe this, White Man suddenly said out loud. He stood up and walked over to the window on the other side of the train, as if he might be able to see the problem from that angle. It can't be much longer, the fireman said. He recrossed his arms, modeling patience for the impatient man. Easy for you to say, the man sat back down. I have to get to work. Sergio looked up. What's that supposed to mean? They were all stuck on the train. Why did this guy think he was the only one with someplace to go? Because he was white? Another minute passed, and the man jumped up again. I can't take it. He headed for the door that led from one car into the next. He pulled on the handle, but it didn't open. The fireman stood. Sir, that's not a good idea. If the train suddenly starts moving, it's dangerous. Should probably stay seated. And who the hell are you? The man shot back. The tone of his voice was like a volt of electricity in Sergio's body, unpleasant, familiar. Without being aware of it, Sergio tightened his hands into fists. What had his grandmother taught him? Stay out of fights. Stay away from men who fight. When you do see a fight, turn, walk the other way. There was nowhere to go, though. Nothing to do but sit and watch, still, his body. Stay alert. I work for the city of New York. Now, will you kindly take your seat, sir? The fireman answered. The man yanked at the handle again. The city of New York? Well, that explains a lot. He pulled harder, and suddenly the train lit up. Bells were dinging, and the wheels screeched into motion, pitching the man forward. He hit his head hard on the door and slumped to the ground. Only then did the grocery woman wake up. Oh my God, that man is bleeding, she screamed.